Good day, learners. Welcome to Learn with me. This is your Module 3 of Quarter 1, Use of Modal Verbs, Nouns, and Adverbs. Class, this PowerPoint presentation will serve as a guide for grade 8 students in understanding Module 3. So this module was prepared by this development team. They were the ones who prepared this module for us. So remember also that you are allowed to use your module, but reproducing it is against the law. So class, Module 3 has 3 lessons. We have modal verbs for lesson 1, modal nouns for lesson 2, and modal adverbs for lesson 3. Okay, since you are the new normal learners, you are already aware that DepEd has already given us the MELCs or the MELC, Most Essential Learning Competency, hailed or deemed as the most important competencies that we can learn in this pandemic. So in this module, this is what is covered. Use modal verbs, nouns, and adverbs appropriately. So that is the subject code. So in this module, you are expected to first identify modal verbs, nouns, and adverbs used in sentences, construct sentences using appropriate modal verbs, nouns, and adverbs. So that's the second. Third, address different societal problems by writing ideas using different modals. And lastly, express appreciation of Afro-Asian cultures reflected in the story using modals. So these are the objectives of this module. Moving on, we have let's review activity. So read each of the following situations. 1. A learner can get information from various websites and acknowledge the author by writing sources used. 2. A learner may cite sources of information that he or she used in his or her research. 3. A research paper requisitely contains a bibliography written on a separate page and placed at the end part of the paper. 4. It is important to cite the sources of information that you used in your research because it will give credit to the author. And number 5, in writing a bibliography, it is a necessity to use appropriate punctuations. So if you notice, there are underlined words used in each of the sentences. So we have number 1, can, 2, may, 3, requisitely, 4, will, and 5, necessity. Okay, so the underlined words can, may, requisitely, will, and necessity are called modals or modal expressions. To give you an overview of the 3 modals, modal verbs, modal nouns, and modal adverbs, I have placed their meanings and definitions side by side. First, modal verbs. These are auxiliary or helping verbs, which modify or change the meaning of the main verbs. So you use modal verbs in giving advice or suggestions, in making a request, or in giving predictions and prohibitions. In modal nouns, these also express the quality or state in some manner other than as a simple fact. And modal adverbs describe or give information about adverbs, adjectives, and other adverbs. So you will understand more about this as we go through this module. Let us proceed to lesson 1, modal verbs. To the student, examine the two sentences and think if they have the same or different meanings. 1. Sam is too young to drive a car. 2. Sam might be too young to drive a car. Sentence number 1, Sam is too young to drive a car, states a fact that Sam is too young to drive a car. While number 2, Sam might be too young to drive a car, expresses the possibility, okay, the possibility that Sam could not drive the car because of his age. So the presence of the word might in sentence number 2 makes the meaning different. The word might is an example of a modal expression that functions as a verb. So the word might changed the meaning of the sentence, Sam is too young to drive a car. Now, aside from might, there are other commonly used modals such as may, can, could, shall, should, will, and would. These modal expressions function as a verb. Okay, so remember that modal verbs are auxiliary or helping verbs which modify the meaning or change the meaning of the main verbs. Remember how the word might change the meaning of the sentence in the example earlier? Okay, so modal verbs have the following uses. 1. Giving advice. 2. Giving suggestions. 3. Making requests. 4. Giving prohibitions. And 5. Giving predictions. On the next page, you will find out more about these. So the table here will show us the use of the modals and how they are used in the sentence or sentences. So first, the modals will, shall, must, won't or will not, shan't or shall not, can't or cannot. These modals are used to show that you are really certain, meaning you are really sure about something. So in our sample sentence, Jana's debut party will be planned secretly. In this sentence, the modal will is used. So we can say that Jana's debut party will surely be planned secretly. We are really sure that it will be planned secretly. Next, we have should, and ought to. So these two modals are used to show or to mean very likely. In the sample sentence, traffic is not heavy. We should be there before the time. So the modal used in this sentence is should. So the sentence mean to say that it is very likely that we should be there because the traffic is not heavy. Next, we have may, might, and could. So these modals mean to show possibility. So in the sample sentence, it may rain today, we can say that there is a possibility of rain today. Next, we have must, have to, and need to. These modals are used to show strong obligation. In our sample sentence, we have the plan must be accomplished without her knowing it. So the word or the modal rather used is must. Therefore, we can say that the sentence means that the plan should be, or rather, there is a strong obligation to accomplish the plan without her knowing it. Next, we have should and ought to. Okay, so earlier, the meaning is, or the modal rather, is used to show strong obligation. But this next one can also show obligation, but this one is weak obligation. We have should and ought to. So I should see a dentist. I have a bad breath, even though I brush my teeth regularly. So the word should is the modal used in the sentence. Next, no obligation. So the following modals show no obligation. We have needn't or need not, don't, need to or do not need to, don't have to do or do not have to. In our sample sentence, I need not brush my teeth now. I will just do it later. So the sample sentence shows no obligation to do the task. So on this next table, we still have more modals. We have can, may, could, and might. So these modals are used to show permission. In our sample sentence, may I borrow your pen? So the word may is the modal used to show permission. Next, we have can't or cannot, may not, and must not. So these three shows no permission. In our sample sentence, you cannot go out without a quarantine pass. The modal used is cannot. Therefore, the meaning is you do not have the permission to go out because you don't have a quarantine pass. Next is will and shall. We have the word, these modals rather show offer. In our sample sentence, I will bring your things here. So the word will shows offer. Next, we have request. The following modals show request: will, would, and could. So will you open the windows? So will is an example of a modal to use request. And by the way, the word would and the word could, so these two modals could be used to make a request to elderly or to people older than us, or maybe to people of authority. For example, you will ask your teacher the time. So you could say, could you tell me what time it is? Instead of saying, will you tell me what time it is? The first sentence, could you tell me what time it is a polite request. If you will actually say, will you tell me what time it is, to an older person or probably to someone in authority like a teacher, it is, or it will be perceived as being rude. So the words could and would are used also to show politeness. Next, will is a promise, it shows promise. So the sample sentence is, I will come back after sunset. So the word will is your modal that shows promised, a promise rather. Next, another use of will is showing decision. So sample sentence is, I will eat now. Next is advice and suggestion. We have shall, should, shouldn't, or should not. So the suggestion here is you should wear appropriate attire for your job interview, meaning the person is giving a suggestion about an attire that is appropriate for the job interview. We have ability, can or could. So the students can sing harmoniously. Next, general truth, can and may. We can avoid the COVID-19 by following health protocols. So just be mindful or be reminded of the following modals that we can use to show the following: permission, no permission, offer, request, promise, decision, advice and suggestion, ability, general truth, and many more, as already mentioned in the previous slide. So after discussing modal verbs, we have modal nouns. And if you have any questions about the discussion, please feel free to ask your facilitator or your teacher. So modal nouns, lesson 2, activity in the right order. To the student, notice the underlined words used in each of the sentences. 1. The son could not leave his mother alone. He felt a great responsibility to take back his mother home. 2. The possibility of the farmer to leave his mother on the top of the mountain should be done, or else both of them will die. 3. The governor realized his mistake, so with the ability he has as a governor, he will abolish the law. 4. Long, long ago, There lived a poor farmer and his aged mother in a village where a cruel governor would test the capacity of his people in following his demands. And number 5, the governor once again expressed his ability to use his power by demanding that his people must bring him a rope of ashes. Using the clever idea of his mother, the father made, or the farmer rather, made a rope of ashes. Again, notice the underlined words in each of the sentences. So the underlined words, possibility, responsibility, capacity, and ability, these are called modal nouns. So these are nouns that function as modals. So we'll be explaining that on the next pages. To further understand modal nouns, read and study the sentences below. Letter A. If Carl campaigns hard, his win is a certainty. B. Carl's friends express their willingness to help Carl in his campaign. C. There is likelihood that the students will vote for Carl. So if we notice, the words certainty, willingness, and likelihood are underlined. So these are also examples of modal nouns. In addition to the examples earlier, responsibility, possibility, ability, and capacity. So letter A, certainty is a quality or state of being certain or sure. So we can say that it is certain that Carl will win if he campaigns hard. Okay, so the modal certainty shows the state of being certain or sure. Letter B, willingness is a quality or state of being ready to do something. So we can say that the friends of Carl are ready to help Carl in his campaign. Now in letter C, the word likelihood in this sentence shows a quality or a state of something having the chance to happen. So we can say that there is a chance that the students will vote for Carl. That's the meaning of letter C. So these words, certainty, willingness, likelihood, are modals, but they are modal nouns. Okay? Okay, so we will have the same sentences. Remember that the word certainty is equivalent to for sure. So the word certainty in sentence 1 expresses that Carl's win is for sure. Now the word willingness also means ready. So the word willingness in sentence 2 expresses that Carl's friends are ready to help him. And in the third sentence, or in sentence C, the word likelihood means chance. In addition, likelihood in sentence 3 expresses that there is a chance that the students will vote for Carl. Okay, the words that you see in this slide right now, such as possibility, obligation, necessity, ability, permission, request, promise, chance, requirement, responsibility, and capacity, these words are used as nouns that express modality. These nouns that express modality are called modal nouns. So just like the modal verbs, modal nouns also express the quality or state in some manner other than as a simple fact. Okay, so let us read the table that shows more examples of modal nouns, their meanings, and sample sentences. So the modal noun possibility, it means condition or fact of being possible. Sample sentence, there is a possibility of rain tomorrow. Next modal noun, obligation. It means a condition or feeling of being obligated or required. Sample sentence, students have an obligation to study hard. Next, necessity. It means the quality or state of being in need. Sample sentence here is nowadays, mobile phones are considered a necessity. Next, we have ability. It is the quality or state of being able. Sample sentence, I have a friend who has the ability to read minds. Next, permission, meaning the right or ability to do something given by someone who has the power to disallow or allow. My brother is given permission to play. That's the sample sentence. Next, we have request. Meaning is the condition or state of being requested or sought after. Sample sentence, the sick lady sent a request for medical assistance. Next is promise. It is a declaration to do or refrain from doing something. Sample sentence. It is important when we make a promise, or it is important that when we make a promise, we keep it. Next, chance. The condition or fact or of a particular outcome in an uncertain situation. So, sample sentence is if Tony works hard, he has a big chance of succeeding. Next, requirement, meaning a condition that something is needed or must be done. During the pandemic, quarantine pass is a requirement if one will go to a grocery store. Next is responsibility. It means the state or quality of being responsible. Sample sentence. It is the parents' responsibility to provide for their children. And the last on this table, capacity. It is the quality or state of being able to do something. Sample sentence, I believe my teacher has the capacity to teach us online.
So now you are familiar with these modal nouns and their meanings and how they were used in sample sentences. To sum up, modal nouns are mostly names of qualities or states. Modal verbs are similar in a way that they also express modal meaning. However, they are different from modal verbs in the way they are used in the sentence. Modal verbs are used to add information to the main verb, while modal nouns are quality or modal nouns name a quality, state, or condition that state modality. So in the sentence below, Sam felt the necessity to go home early and Sam should go home early. The one in your right is an example of a modal noun. The one on the left is an example of a modal verb. Do notice that on the modal noun example, necessity, it has the same meaning with the second one. However, the difference is how they were used in the sentence. The one on your left is used as a noun, or it is a noun rather, used as a modal. And the one on your right is used as a modal verb. Be reminded that modal verbs always come with the main verb. So in our example, Sam should go home early. Our modal is should. And our main verb is what? Go. The main verb is go. Moving on, we have lesson 3, modal adverbs. So we are already done with modal verbs, modal nouns. If you have any questions about the 2 previous lessons, feel free to contact your facilitator or your teacher, or you can actually comment below. So look at the following sentences. 1. My mother is possibly given the permission to sell vegetables in the market. 2. My friend has the ability to lift objects twice her weight. She certainly would win in a weightlifting contest. 3. Surely this generation considers mobile phones as a necessity. 4th, Ara decidedly write the list of the school's requirement to apply for a scholarship. So if you notice, the underlined words are possibly, certainly, surely, and decidedly. And you guessed it right, these are modal adverbs.
Okay, now I want you to notice the sentences 1, 2, and 3. 1. If Carl campaigns hard, he shall win. 2. Carl's friends are happy to help him in his campaign. And 3. The students will vote for Carl. Now I'll show you the sentences again, but now with modal adverbs. Okay, so these are the sentences I'm talking about. We have A, B, and C. A, if Carl campaigns hard, he shall surely win. B, Carl's friends are willingly happy to help him in his campaign. And C, The students will likely vote for Carl. If you notice, the underlined words end in ly. It is because they are adverbs. So these adverbs show modality. That's why they're called modal adverbs. Now these modal adverbs describe or give more meaning or information to verbs and adjectives. So in letter A, the word surely describes the verb win. Okay? And in letter B, the word willingly describes the adjective happy. And in letter C, the modal likely describes the word vote. So it gives more information about the verb vote. Okay, we have some more examples. We have possibly. The meaning of this modal adverb is to state that something is possible to happen. So my mother is possibly coming home today. So the word possibly is a modal adverb that describes the verb coming. Next is certainly, meaning in a manner that is sure or without a doubt. Sentence, I am certainly joyful that my family is always with me. So the modal adverb certainly describes the word joyful, which is an adjective. Next we have obligately, meaning in an obligate or necessary manner. My father is obligately proud to work hard for our family. So the word obligately describes the adjective proud. Next is necessarily, used to state that something is necessary or needed. Sentence, Lolo said that a person's success does not necessarily reflect one's personality towards other people. Necessarily describes reflect. Next, ably, meaning in a skillful or competent manner. So Tonton dances ably during the party. So the word dances is a verb being described by the adverb ably. So we have some more on the next page. So we have some more adverbs. Requisitely, used to state that something is essential or important for a particular purpose. I have to requisitely answer my homework. So, what word does requisitely describe? The word is answer. Or the next is promisingly, meaning in a promising manner. So the concert started promisingly, but it did not maintain the interest of its audience. So the adverb promisingly describes the verb started. Next, decidedly, meaning in a manner that is free from doubt. Sample sentence, my sister is decidedly supportive of my hobby. Next, responsibly, meaning in a responsible manner. Sample sentence, the police responsibly helped the old man cross the road. So the word responsibly describes the verb helped. permissively, used to state something that is granted or given permission. Sample sentence, I played permissively with my friends. So we can say that the adverb permissively describes the verb played. Okay, so what have you observed with the form of modal adverbs? So noticeably, the adverbs given earlier in the table have equivalent modal noun forms. So some of the examples are possibly and possibility, necessarily and necessity, certainly and certainty. So we know that the first word in the pair is an adverb, and the second word in the pair is a noun. Okay, now that you have seen modal adverbs, the question is, are they familiar to modal verbs and modal nouns? If yes, how are they similar? And if not, how are they different? So in the sample sentences earlier, the underlined words are the modal adverbs. And I already told you the words that they describe. So most of the modal adverbs describe how something is done and how someone feels about something. So they are similar to modal verbs and modal nouns because they express modality. That's their similarity. However, they differ in form and the way they are used in sentences. So modal verbs are used to add information to the main verb. Like what I have said, modal verbs always come with the main verb. Remember our example earlier? Sam should go home early. The modal verb should goes with the main verb go. Next, on the other hand, modal nouns name a quality, state, or condition that state modality. Example is, Sam feels the necessity to go home early. The modal noun necessity shows that there is a need to go home early. And lastly is modal adverbs describe or give more meaning or information to verbs and adjectives. Okay, so we can say that probably Sam responsibly feels the necessity to go home early. Okay, so that that last sentence is an example of modal adverb. Class, we have reached the end part of our lesson today. I hope you have learned a lot about modal verbs, modal nouns, and modal adverbs. Just in case you need more information about the topics, feel free to contact your facilitator or your teacher. Similarly, you may also comment below and probably ask your questions, and I'll try my best to answer them. Okay, so good luck, learners, and have a good one. Enjoy learning. Goodbye.